I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Latest surface analysis across the middle of the country shows low pressure right over the top of Chicago. Warm front out of that coming across southern Indiana into central Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. A cold front running from the low back down to Oklahoma City and then back into West Texas. Actually, along that cold front, we're not seeing much action. There's still a nice skiff of clouds across the central plains running through Nebraska, Kansas, and we're still seeing some radar echoes, maybe even a thunderstorm or two firing up in south-central parts of Kansas, north-central Oklahoma. So you know what? You can't say it's going to be completely dry, but there's not a lot of moisture to work with here. As we go forward, latest model data into us, not showing anything all that super exciting at this point. We're not seeing a ton of rain coming in the short term, but we still have a couple of little waves that are going to come through, enough to trigger some harvest delays across the nation's midsection. Cool air and warm air battle is probably the biggest key here. Cool air sags south into the northern part of the Great Lakes. Doesn't really advance any more than that. But you've got warmer air to the south, and in between, some moisture still breaking out. Scattered showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder across the eastern half of the Corn Belt here yet later this afternoon through tonight and into tomorrow. I still like rain totals of a quarter to maybe up to 1 full inch. A lot of it's going to be in that quarter to half inch range, and it's going to take thunderstorms to do more than that. Everything's gone by tomorrow night. We should put together several drier days in the Corn Belt then as we go through Wednesday and Thursday, but then we'll watch as some moisture comes out of the central plains and across the southern part of the Corn Belt to finish the week. So later Thursday night, Friday into Saturday, I would look at I-70 as being the delineation line for where this moisture really wants to develop. If there's any place that we go north of that, it would probably be in Missouri rather than Illinois, Indiana. Clouds from this mass probably will extend to cover a large part of the Corn Belt, but moisture, that's mostly going to be along and south of I-70. I look for rain totals to be generally a quarter to 1 inch, but there can be some 2 inch or better rain totals in there, especially as we go through Friday night and into Saturday. The Ohio River Valley then gets moisture as well. If you're in the northern part of the Corn Belt, honestly, I think high pressure takes control. You'll get some clouds in initially, but that's about it. So when talking about harvest delays, you've got to kind of quantify this a little bit. The second half of this week through the weekend, any delays that are still active will probably be farther south, along and south of I-70. If we're still having delays to the north, it's just due to the fact that we got way too much rain here recently. It won't be because of new precipitation. Next good strong front that we see still looks like it's on track for the 13th through the 15th, depending on where you are. Strong low. I mean, this is a monster low moving into the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin area as we go through Monday the 13th. I'm looking for a very strong cold front to come out of that. And you know what? There's probably going to be a substantial warm front to the east as well. So I'm looking at a fairly significant period of warming over the Corn Belt. Then the cold front comes through. It's the recipe for some good, strong thunderstorms. I still like rain totals out of this of 1 to 2 inches over a large part of the Corn Belt. I'll probably expand that range, continue to talk about 1/2 to 2, but I think there's going to be a lot of 1 to 2 inch rainfall totals. That will be another harvest delay causing event there. However, after we get done with that, so after the 15th, I honestly see a large part of the rest of the forecast period from the 15th right on through about the 22nd, 23rd as being dry. And I think that if the ridge continues to build across the nation's midsection like I'm seeing, we might even be able to extend that dry period even farther toward the end of the month. So I don't think you can look at the pattern that's emerging right now and say it's just going to be wet and it's going to be a slog it out affair in terms of harvest. Yeah, we've got some issues here for the next week, but following that, we should have a nice window. It all comes down to just how much rain we see, how the soils can handle it, and how we go from there. And so for places like in Illinois that we picked up, generally 2, 3, 4, even 7 inches of rain last week, those are going to be the key areas to watch. Right now, the rains toward the end of this week seem to want to be over the southern part of the state. We'll just have to see how the rains develop next week. Temperature-wise, not looking at any massive cold. I will say that the powerful low that tries to work across as we go through the 13th and 15th should if you think about this logically, it should bring in some fairly significant cold air behind it. But if we are getting a ridge to build over the west and central part of the country, it might be just enough to push that coldest air farther east. The GFS is hinting at that. I don't really like to cite the GFS very much, but in this case, it is kind of in line with the European. I'm not seeing a major cold air outbreak now being talked about as we go through next week and into the week following. It really looks like areas that get cold are going to be places like Pennsylvania, New York, maybe eastern Ohio. And we may squeeze another week or so out in the Corn Belt, depending on where you're at. We're also going to be watching the tropics closely. It's really hard to get a read on the tropics. They're boring as all get out right now. I'm not seeing any sign of development out of any tropical waves, but we are seeing a couple models that insist on bringing massive storms in. We think it's a model flaw, but we'll keep monitoring right now. Anything that throws moisture into the Gulf Coast areas or southeast coast areas would be looked at as maybe detrimental to harvest across the Corn Belt, as it could kind of disrupt the system pattern a little bit. That's what we've got in your forecast at midday. If you've got any questions about the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.